Miss Wendy Shannon. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing good too. It's good to see you as always.
It is good to see you.
So, of course, we're here today to talk about caregivers, and I remember that you was a caregiver for your mom at one point, and I just was hoping that you could share some of that story with our audience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, the year, of course, was 2017.
Okay.
Um, I guess you could say our experience kind of started in the fall of 2016,
Okay.
when our mom was diagnosed. And so and one of the things that my siblings and I, so there are, excuse me, my parents had seven girls and one son.
Okay.
My brother was the oldest, and one sister preceded my my
Oh,
mom's
okay.
death. So
Okay.
that left us with six girls and my brother.
Yes.
And once we noticed that there were a couple of things that we had decided. One was because my mom had been self-employed her entire life, and
Mhm.
she paid into Social Security, very astute businesswoman.
Right.
Um, so she had, Social Security and things like that, but she was no longer working.
Right.
And so one of the things that we did right off the bat was we decided that we would each contribute X amount of dollars a month toward that went into a bank account
Right.
to help, take care of the woman who had taken care of us
Give
all our
us.
life, right?
Right.
Like that was that was not an issue for
Right.
us at all. At all. It was like, okay, what date does it need to
To
be in
be
the
in there.
account?
Now, let me ask you this, Wendy,
Hmm.
because you say your brother is the oldest, and
Yes.
and I really respect the fact that you all were all willing to contribute to your mom's finances. But do you remember whose idea it was? Who came up with the idea?
It was one of my sisters
Okay.
who had been on the account, had been on an account with her. And she was very um clear in that, you know, this would not be the account, you know, that I'm on with mother. Because
Okay.
it's so interesting because she called her mother.
Okay.
I called her ma or mama, you
Okay.
know, one sister called her mom. So, um, but um, it was my sister Sandra who actually she and Jean both said, hey, we'd like to be able to do this. We don't want mom to miss a beat, yada, yada, yada. And so what they did was they set up a different account,
Okay.
and then the money that the bills, they just would transfer that money into that other account so
Right.
that the bills could continue to be, paid and whatnot.
Right. So that's really beautiful that you all were able to come together like that. And I hope you realize how much of a blessing it is because many times siblings aren't able to communicate that
Right,
well and work
right.
together.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. And we were not without situations like
Yes.
that, and so for those, and I think the way it was presented to us as siblings was those that can do it, and for those that aren't able to, you're able to contribute in other ways so
Yes.
that they were not feeling left out of the caregiving process for our mother. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That is so noble. And it really warms my heart to hear that it worked that way because one of the things I really try to teach is that everybody has a different role.
Right.
Everybody's not meant or set up to play the same role. So tell me a little bit more about how you all assign these roles.
That is so interesting that you would say that because that is so true. And it was very true for us because so I was working, I had in a counseling practice, and I was working as a school counselor. Oh,
Okay.
well, at that time, I had become a school assistant principal. And so when we realized, I'll never forget that day because I was going home on the weekends in the fall to
Okay.
give my sisters respite.
Yes.
And then sometimes I would leave late Sunday night, sometimes I'd leave early Monday morning and go straight to the school. And it was wearing on me, but I didn't realize it because with those new responsibilities, and then,
Yeah.
we've always been raised family first,
Yes.
you know, um, it all came to a head, so to speak, in February.
Okay.
I went home and my two of my older sisters, they were just crying. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on? And they were just saying, they just needed a little bit more help and um it just wasn't coming together. I have a sister who's very direct
Yes.
and so I just looked at my husband and I said, it's not fair. And um I need to be here for my mom
Yeah.
and to help provide them with some respite care.
Yeah.
And so it was like a decision that was like it was a no-brainer.
Okay.
And so I was able to take FMLA
Okay.
and I did that and was able to we devised the schedule
Okay.
so that even though I was there, we all still needed to be able to do some of the things that um we needed. We all would have the respite,
You
you
had
know.
to maintain your own lives.
Exactly.
Inside of taking care of
Exactly.
your mom, you still had to have your own space, your own time, and still own some of your own life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And thank you for phrasing that, bringing that together for me, because that's exactly what we were able to do. And
Yes.
so it was interesting because my brother, he's so hilarious. He was like, well, I think you girls ought to be the one that bathe mother and and da 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 da. And we were like, why are you saying it's just gotta be us? And so he was thinking about the dignity.
Yes.
He was like, there's nothing wrong with her mind. There's nothing wrong with her mind. And so I think it made him feel better. And the way he helped us was he would come through and he would pick up the laundry. He was taking out the trash, he'd take the laundry to his house, he'd do
Yes.
the laundry, fold it, bring it back like clockwork, like clockwork. And then, and then he would call each day and say, are y'all cooking something or do you want me to stop
You
and
drink
bring
something?
something? What does she want? This has she said she wanted anything special to eat. And so all those pieces came together. But
Yes.
before we were able to do that, we had to sit down and we did and came up with the schedule
Mhm.
as to how it was going to work for
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
and I have my youngest sister lives in Texas. And
Uh-huh.
so, she was like, well, I can come down, X week and this
Okay.
week. And so we really just worked cohesively, even in those moments when it was tense. And I'm not saying that it was easy,
Hmm.
and that there weren't some tough conversations that were
Right.
held,
Right.
but that I think the bigger picture overall for us was being able to care for our mother.
Yes.
We had always said that she wasn't going into a nursing home. That was
Right.
like, you know, that ain't gonna happen.
No consideration.
That
Right.
was that was a non-issue. Like we're not doing that.
Right.
And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
how do we keep her in the house
Yes.
um to her standards.
Yes.
Because once, you know, and friends of hers and friends of family, you know, like one person donated a Hoyer lift,
Yes.
you know, came over, showed us how to use it, you know, so that we could get her up out of the bed and
Yeah.
get her into the wheelchair, you know, and then making sure that we were always respectful, because my mom was an impeccable housekeeper.
Okay.
And so it was, I remember one day we got her up, and she said, I was rolling her. I don't remember where I was rolling her, but she said, "What is going on?
Okay.
This is," I said, "Mama, I'm gonna take care of it as soon as I get you situated. I'm gonna
Yes.
take care of it as soon as I get you situated." And, you know, it's like nothing was out of place. She didn't play that. You
Yeah.
know, she believed in working, but you can still work and keep your house, you know,
Yes.
in order. And even when she was down, she still had that expectancy that things would be done. And I think that was what continued to motivate us
Okay.
in making sure that things were done and were decent and in order.
Order. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. So,
yes,
you know, the
yes.
more I listen to you, the more I just really love your story because I think that you and your family are one of the exceptions, right? Because a lot
Mhm.
of families are not able to communicate and
Right.
share responsibilities. And I think that when they're not able to do that, they miss out on creating memories. And I bet that you all have some of the best memories during that time frame.
Oh my goodness. When I tell you, the other day, actually it was last week, a memory came up on my phone.
Okay.
And my mom loved fried fish and
Yes.
grits. And a friend from Gainesville, nephew, had caught some brim, cleaned them for us. And I took, you know, we took it down there and fried it up for
Yes.
her. And she was in heaven. And I didn't even remember recording her.
Okay.
And so recorded her, and I said, "Say thank you, Ren." And she said, "Thank you, Ren. This is a dream come
Come
true."
through. I love it. I love
So
it.
it's like you said, making those memories that, you know, in a time that was very stressful for us
Yes.
and very difficult. But the memories, we have some really fond memories
Hmm.
of our mom and during that time. Even so, to the point that my mom had left nothing to chance.
Okay.
She had her will was in order.
Okay.
She had done all of the things that were necessary with the hospital.
Right.
We did not have to make any
Oh,
decisions.
that's beautiful. That's
We
beautiful.
did not have to make any decisions. And that was a beautiful blessing.
It is a blessing. It is a
It was a
blessing.
beautiful blessing that
Yeah.
we didn't have to make a decision to end her life,
Right.
because she said none of that stuff is necessary.
Okay.
And so it was, like I said, it was a beautiful blessing that we weren't tasked with
With that.
making that decision,
Yes.
that she had taken care of that in life,
Mhm.
and that we wouldn't have to deal with it in
Yeah.
her. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
So, um, again, your story just really penetrates my spirit, and I really appreciate you sharing it. And as I've listened to you talk about how you all sat down and you talked and you came up with a schedule, being organized, you talked about how you knew it wasn't fair that your sisters were taking the blunt of it and you wanted to adjust your life so that you could do it, right?
Right,
And
right.
also you all being able to create those memories because you all came together. And even though you all might not realize it, I bet y'all are closer now than you ever have been before because you shared that together.
Yes, we started a family text
Okay.
back, just to keep, okay, this is what, it started as a result of that. But it is, like you said, it is even stronger
So
now.
now,
Like daily, my phone is dinging, like,
but that's
just, but
beautiful.
it's good. It really is.
Yes,
It
it
really is.
is.
It
That
keeps us
is
connected to one another, even though, we're not all, it's two of us that aren't in our
right.
hometown,
Right.
myself and my youngest sister. But it keeps us so connected as if we were there
We're there.
experiencing those things that, may be happening there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you one more question. Um,
Mhm.
being able to do all of those things and being able to spend that time with her and being happy and pleased with yourself that you all were able to keep her out the nursing home and keep her at home and take care of her to the degree that you all took care of her and preserving her dignity and all of those things that were so important to you. Did that help with the grief process, you think?
Oh my gosh. Wow. You know, as we were for me, going through this experience, I would often say to God, I just want to be there for her, like she was there for
For
me.
me.
And I would just ask him to give me the strength and you know, and understanding
Yes.
and he did that
Yeah.
because one, a woman of God had laid that foundation for us.
Mhm.
And so wanting to and honoring her, yes, it did. Like I have an understanding about it that I
Right.
can't even explain,
Yes. Yes.
and it was so funny. I don't know if you're familiar with this old film called Imitation of Life about
Yes.
okay. And so growing up, my sisters would always say, "Oh, I was gonna be Sarah Jane because I'm the emotional one."
Okay.
All of that kind of stuff.
You're
And
right.
I tell you, I it was not because I had spent time with her and we had had laughs and just, had a really good time. And then he gave me this peace, this
Yes.
understanding that, like I said, I can't even explain it. That at her funeral, I was the sibling that spoke.
Okay.
It was funny because my sister, the one that's in charge and take charge, she
Uh-huh.
said, remember, she was not just your mother.
Okay.
And I was like, of course not. But I talked about her in her role as a hairstylist
Yes.
and and as a mother and how she had these 8 kids and
Yeah.
how each one of us was so special. We had our own special relationship
Relationship with
with
her.
her,
Right.
right? That we all thought we were her favorite.
8
That we all
favorites. Ain't
thought
nothing
that.
wrong with that.
Right? We all thought that because she knew each one of her kids
Yes.
and she knew what we would need. And and even in her passing, she knew that and had prepared us
Us. Okay.
for that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
She had
beautiful.
prepared us. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, as we close out with your own experience, what would you share or what would you say to other caregivers as they embark on this journey as a caregiver?
I would say, first and foremost, come together. Have an understanding amongst yourselves as siblings, cousins, whoever the family makeup is,
Right,
right? And and that it's not about you, the individual. It is about your loved one.
right.
and not about what you would want for them, but what they want for themselves. And if they're still able to advocate that,
Mhm.
then you do what you can do, things that are within your power to make sure that those things are happening for them. I think that I had not much thought about having an advanced directive,
Right.
but I do now
Yes.
because mama laid the work, right? And a will, because there was no arguing over my mom. In my mom's will, she said everything is to return to the individual who gave it to me.
Okay.
So there was no, oh, well, I gave her this, or that's mine, or I want this. She said it's in the will that
Right.
whatever whatever was gifted,
Yes.
that it is to return to that person.
Oh man, I really like your mom. Like that is like that's how it's supposed to be because
Sure.
obviously that person has some connection
Sure.
to it, right? So for it to
Right,
go back to
right.
them, I like that.
Yes, yes,
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
yes, yes. And as much as possible, have those conversations, with them now so that you'll kind of know when you can start documenting information and things of that nature. And so I think for us, that was, like I said, it took a lot of the hard things
Yes.
we didn't have to worry
Right.
about.
Right. Right.
Didn't have to worry about.
Yeah. And I really appreciate it because I mean, you keep saying it wasn't without tension.
Right?
There
It
were
wasn't
hard
hard.
times.
It,
And I think that's what, we want. That's the message we want to send. It's gonna get rough. It's
absolutely.
gonna get rough. But
Absolutely.
if you're able to come together as a family and as an individual, take care of yourself, maintain your own life, don't
Yes,
completely lose it in the process, then I
absolutely.
think you will have a better outcome.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
Miss Shannon, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your caregiving story with me. Like I said, I just love your mom to death. She definitely knew what she was doing and pulled it together
Did.
so well. And I admire you and your siblings, man.
Thank
So
you.
many families that don't do that. So I hope you all will never take for granted just how
Yeah,
huge, how big of a thing, and like you say, a blessing that was that you
it
all came
was.
together
Yeah.
like that. That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Well, I thank you for the invitation, and
Yeah.
anytime
Thank you
I am
so
available
much.
to you.